Okay, I'm into some wacky shit, and so if you're gonna come along with me on this ride, buckle up. Alright, so I just want to start with, I have a question that I want to ask the tarot today, and it's kind of a goofy question. It's something outside of the box, but this question has a bit of backstory, so stick with me here. Alright, this started because I started listening to this band today that I guess they've been out for the past few months. They're called Angine de Poitrine. They're from Quebec, and they say their name kind of funny. First of all, so their music is this kind of microtonal music, which essentially means like if you have like a piano keyboard and you've got white keys and black keys, so the tone between those half steps, between the white to the black, right, to the sharp or to the flat, they're playing notes that are between that half step. Okay, so they have like these tricked out guitars, so like a guitar and a tricked out bass with extra frets that kind of allows them to sort of play different notes than we would have on like a standard Western instrument. And then they have these kind of crazy costumes, which apparently, because I kind of had to delve into this a bit, apparently the costumes came about because of playing like a concert in the same location like a couple nights in a row, but they wanted the same people to go to both concerts, but they didn't want them to realize it was still them playing, and so they decided to like put on these crazy costumes and kind of put on this character. All right, so the characters that they're portraying as they're playing this music are aliens. Like they have their own language, and like their manager has to translate for them.
Well, why do you wear suits?
And apparently this idea kind of came about because they're big fans of someone that I'm actually kind of a big fan of as a performance artist. I had an absolute obsession with Andy Kaufman when I was like in my early 20s, late teens. I was obsessed with that man. All right, so you know he predates me though. Like he was dead and gone by the time I kind of figured out who he was. What was coming out at the time was Jim Carrey's movie Man on the Moon. And so, but I had been watching actually Taxi for quite some time in reruns before that, and then kind of got to know like more of his sort of performance art stuff prior to the movie coming out. And so the whole deal with Andy Kaufman, if you don't know who he is he would try to push the boundaries of things, right? He was kind of questioning what comedy was, okay? And so he would do these crazy stunts. So one of the stunts he would do is he would wrestle women, kind of as this very misogynistic character, sort of emphasizing and poking fun at some of the misogynistic attitudes in the public sphere.
Gals are up there trying to take you apart, and you have no idea how good they are, how strong they are. You don't know when you get in there with them.
I've never seen them before in my life, and they just come up there, and I let the audience choose who I'm going to wrestle. I've never met a woman in the ring in the 3.5 years that I've been doing this who was able to pin my shoulders to the ground. And it's embarrassing, but I'll keep doing it because they keep saying they want to try. And as long as there's women out there that want to try and humiliate themselves like that. Now, I'm not saying women are mentally inferior to men, because when it comes to things like cooking and cleaning, washing the potatoes, scrubbing the carrots, raising the babies, mopping the floors, they have it all over men. I believe that. But
and so you can kind of see how this Angine de Poitrine, they are kind of asking what is music, right? With the kind of music that they're developing, especially in the age of AI, right? And when we can hop on Suno and like put in a little, you know, type prompt and it'll come up with a whole song based on popular music. Well, what is there that humans can do that AI can't do? Well, This microtonal music, I guess, is an example of that, right? So they are really kind of trying to push the boundaries of what music is and what music can be. And then the costumes on top of it are not just asking a similar question to Andy Kaufman, but they are like Andy Kaufman's character, Tony Clifton. So sometimes Andy Kaufman would dress up as Tony Clifton and like just pretend to be this really brash, kind of horrendous guy who would just show up in the place of Andy Kaufman for performances.
How you doing? All right. Nice to see everybody out here. Everybody feeling good? All right. You know, I just came back from East. Let me tell you something. It was so cold there.
How cold was it?
Oh, ask you. I didn't ask you. Can we start this again? I didn't ask you. I didn't ask you. Come on up here. Why don't you come up here?
Of course, this kind of art commenting on itself, like what is that actual art, can be traced pretty far back, right? So I've seen other people sort of compare this band to Dadaism, the art movement. So the art movement of Dadaism happened post World War I, and World War I was gruesome as a war, right? It is all trench warfare where soldiers were bunkered down in trenches, getting bombs just sort of dumped on them day in, day out for days on end. Okay, they couldn't escape their trench for the most part. They'd have buddies kind of dying around them. There would be rats. Like the conditions for soldiers were horrendous during World War I, right? And we have a draft, of course. So kind of right after experiencing all that, you get this art movement that's like, what is anything anyway, right? What the fuck does any of this mean? And that's kind of Dadaism, okay? Where like one of the main pieces of Dadaism was like literally a urinal with like a guy's signature on it. And the question, like, is that art? Does that deserve to be displayed? Okay? So that's kind of the background here. So at the same time as I'm kind of delving deep into this band today and kind of learning more about them, we get some news.
How many species? Recent reports have said that there are perhaps 4 different alien species raised north. How many species are you aware of?
I certainly don't have the compendium. It's a continuum from corporeal bipedal type life to, you know, what I would consider as like sentient plasmoid life, but there are several that the U.S. government is aware of.
So yet again, another alien announcement. And at this point, I laugh because I don't know what to even make of this, right? Like, honestly, my first instinct after like seeing that clip of that guy being like, of course, there's a compendium of these species, and they can range from bipedal to blobs, and all I could think about was Forrest Gump and the scene with the shrimp, and he's like, I like shrimp and grits, I like shrimp tacos and barbecue shrimp and shrimp sandwiches and shrimp pasta and shrimp, right? Like, this, like, we're gonna get this like long list of all the different aliens. And who knows how much any of that is true, and kind of who cares. But I have a serious question to ask the tarot today. And my question is this. If we are to have alien contact, what species will it be? That's what I want to know from the tarot today. Who will be our first contact? All right, spirits, greater universe, please tune in to this special reading and tell us who will be the first species of alien that we will actually have like a 3D meeting with. All right, so the first card we got out was 6 of Moons, which in this deck is like 6 of Swords. It's going to be a species that thought they had gotten away. They thought they had reached calmer waters, but oh nay, those annoying humans. They're like, bitch, We want to meet your ass. Come on. All right. Tell us more. Tell us more about this first species. The Empress. All right. Very earth energy, right? Divine feminine energy. So this is probably a species of alien that maybe is more of a matriarchy. That might be calling us back to our past. That might have been why they kind of got out of Dodge, right? They kind of were like, y'all some freaks with your patriarchal structures and your Abrahamic religions. What are you doing? And so they're kind of questioning. They're questioning, you know, whether or not we can really be saved. All right. What else about this first species? All right. 7 of Tombs. All right. 7 of Pentacles. All earth energy here. So this is something that is going to be very much in the 3D, but we're being asked to sort of reflect on what we already know when we see the 7 of Pentacles or the 7 of Tombs here. What do we already know? What are we really, really familiar with in regards to aliens? So I would probably argue that the species we are most familiar with as a culture is probably the Greys. That's going to be my guess, is that when people think of aliens, they think of the big-eyed, gray, skinny, short little aliens. So I kind of bet our first contact, our first like really grounded, shake them by the hand, have a one-on-one conversation with an alien is going to be a gray species. That's kind of what I think. All right, anything else we should know about the first contact, like with aliens? All right, we got 3 of Wands. So that will be only the beginning. So 3 of Wands is a card of like standing at the shore and like waiting for your ships to come in. Like, you know, so much more is coming towards you. Now that you've taken those first steps, you're just waiting. You're just waiting for the arrival. So the Greys are going to kind of introduce to us a wave of new alien life that will be able to actually sit down and talk to, and shake their hand or their tentacle and really engage with and learn from. All right, I hope this reading was helpful for you. Have a good one.